Okay, I would like to call to order the November 17th, 2021 Santa Margarita Groundwater Agency Board of Directors meeting. May I have a roll call, please?
Certainly. Director Doug Engfer,
Present.
Director Manu Koenig,
Here.
Director Bruce McPherson, Director Eden Cassidy,
Here.
Director Jeff Koopman,
Present.
Director Dale Pollock is absent with notice, Director Jack Dillis,
Here.
Director Gail Mayhood,
Here.
Director Mark Smalley,
Here.
Director Ruth Stiles,
Here.
and Chair Chris Perry.
I am here additionally.
Okay, we're
Okay.
doing the alternates next. So alternate David Baskin, alternate Jane Brown. Take a look.
Sam just came on.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask that again. Alternate Director Brown. Are you? I can. Okay, good. So you're gonna be acting as a voting member today because we do not have Director McPherson, correct?
Correct.
Okay, got it. Director Kara, alternate Kara Hutchison.
Here.
Thank you. Alternate Director Brian Hayes. Okay, alternate Director Donna Lind.
Here.
Alternate Director Lois Henry. I know you're there, Lois.
Muted.
Director Henry.
Lois, you're probably muted.
We heard you so well earlier.
We were chatting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Thank you. And alternate Director Bill Eckwell. So
He's got the knee surgery, so.
yeah,
might
so
be-
no. So we do have a quorum. We have 10 voting directors present.
Excellent. That's great. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
There's none from staff.
Okay, are there any oral communications on matters not on the agenda? From anyone in the public, anyone?
Let me take a quick look. I have no hands on panelist side. I have no hands from public.
Okay, so let's go to the consent agenda. Approval, that's these four items that we see. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda. I'll second.
Okay, Mayhood and Stiles.
Okay, I got that. And we're going a quick roll call.
Yep.
Director Engfer,
Yes.
Director Koenig,
Yes.
Director Cassidy,
Yes.
Director Koopman,
Yes.
Director Dillis,
Yes.
Director Mayhood,
Yes.
Director Smalley,
Yes.
Director Stiles,
Yes.
Director Brown,
Yes.
and Chair Perry.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Okay, excellent. So 3.1, I'm going to open the public hearing and receive public comment, or as it said here, testimony. That sounds sounds so legal, biblical. We'll call it comment. And let's start with the public. Pierrette, hands.
Looking for hands. We do have a small group of public members.
That's great.
And,
Yeah.
that is
More
your
the
time to have any comments or testimonies,
Testimony.
anything, or questions, anything.
Okay.
I see no hands. I'm
Okay.
sorry to announce there's no hands.
No, I mean, that's so everyone who's listening understands. I think we've been doing a pretty thorough job laying this out exhaustively. over the past couple of years. So that one way, that's good. Okay, so I'm going to close the public hearing.
I think there was a cat in the background that wanted to comment.
Yeah, well, she can't. That's my cat. I told her to leave. Okay, so I'm closing the public hearing, and I'm going to ask for a motion on adopting the groundwater sustainability plan for the Santa Margarita Basin.
Maybe we could ask, we have Georgina here, if there's
Oh,
anything
sorry.
that she'd like to add, because between the two meetings, there was some
Right.
activity that
was.
she was coordinating.
Sorry.
It's okay. Georgina, do you mind?
Yeah, no. Hi, everyone. We did ask for directors to comment on those track changes that were posted for those sections that changed as a result of public comment that we received. And we did get 2 directors provide some kind of comments. Most of them, most of it was 90-something% were editorial. They were, punctuation and changing a few words here or there. There was one paragraph that was particularly difficult to follow, so I'm glad that was pointed out, and I tried to make that clearer. And otherwise, they were just questions that I answered and didn't make any changes to the GSP. So those were the only things that happened since the last draft. Thanks, Barrett.
Okay, thank you, Georgina. Okay, I return to seeing if there's a motion.
I would be thrilled to move that we accept the groundwater sustainability. I was trying to be so formal.
Easy.
Groundwater sustainability plan for the Santa Margarita groundwater basin.
Okay.
And I'd be equally pleased to second it.
Okay, Stiles and Mayhood, fabulous.
Okay, and I'm just gonna ask, I don't know if it makes a difference, the verb. I used adopt because that's what I picked up from Sigma guidelines. So can I make
will
a friendly amendment?
Amend my motion and say that we will adopt the plan.
Okay, thank you. And Director Mayhood, you're okay with that?
Yes, that was a friendly amendment, so.
Okay,
doesn't
okay,
need
thank
to
you.
be-
Yep. So we'll do roll call. Director Ankrum,
Emphatically, yes.
Director Koenig,
Aye.
Director Cassidy,
Aye.
Director Koopman,
Happily, yes.
Director Dillis,
Aye.
Director Mayhood,
Aye.
Director Smalley,
Yes.
Director Stiles,
With thanks to everyone, yes.
Director Brown,
Aye.
and Chair Perry.
Absolutely.
Okay. With accolades, it passes with unanimous vote.
Excellent. Very good. Wow. Good job. Okay, deep breath. Gail?
I just think this is a pretty momentous occasion, actually, after a huge amount of work. And so I want to acknowledge all the work that Georgina has done, guiding us through this, and also Dave Sepos for keeping us on track. I notice we have some members of the public like John Ricker who've been involved in this for a long time before he retired, and members of the staff like Rosemary and Sierra and others that have made a huge contribution to this. So this is a really big deal for all of us and a step forward. And I think we should thank all of the staff and also give us all a pat on the back for sticking with this and carrying it through to the end. So thank you all.
Well said, Gail. I was asked this yesterday morning for a quote from Jennifer Murray for the newspapers, if then they put out a press release. And I'm sure my quote's a little too long and will never make it in its entirety. But I said, all the hard work, long meetings, and late nights paid off with a great plan for water sustainability. But the real win was bringing together all these different communities cooperating with good hearts and minds for the greater good. So I believe that sincerely. So you'll never probably see that in the newspaper, but there it is. Anyone else want to say anything? Ruth? Pierrette? Anyone?
Now I'll have Ruth to go first. I'm just gonna, before we move on to the next item, I'd like to share something too.
And one more thing is I'd like to thank Chair Perry for guiding us through this. He's done a wonderful job, and I feel like you've really operated well. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. It's very nice of you to say. Okay, Pierrette, do you want to?
So I would like to invite you all, not formally yet, but we are planning a little celebration, and tentatively it's on Saturday, December 11th. So it's for board and alternates and staff and all of the people who have been behind the scenes making it happen, for working hard for, I'm losing track, several years at least now. So it is going to be an outdoor, hopefully the weather cooperates. So I will send more information via email, but if you don't have other plans, save the date, afternoon, thinking at this point 2 to 5 on December 11th in Scotts Valley. And it is our diehard fan, Frank Cheap, who has offered and continuously is offering his home to do that. I have checked with legal counsel, our legal counsel, and Scotts Valley's legal counsel, and both of them are in agreement that if the event is purely celebratory and in nature, there is no need to post it. So if we stay away from talking business and just enjoy ourselves and the ability to kind of get together and finally see each other, that's the format, and more details to come.
Fabulous. JM?
Yeah, I just wanted to say on behalf of the supervisor's office that we couldn't be more pleased that the two water districts have worked so well together through this process, and that the private well owners have been such wonderful partners in putting this plan together. And I don't think that we would have been able to get this far without the sense of trust that was built very early on in this process, and the very professional handling of it by our district staff and our wonderful consultants. So just wanted to say that on behalf of Supervisor McPherson, that we couldn't be more proud of where we landed, and it's because we had long-standing trusting relationships. So thank you to everyone for all their hard work and for the public's input.
Great. Thank you, JM. Mark?
Yes. Since we are continuing to meet remotely for these meetings, but we are talking about a face-to-face get-together in December, is it appropriate to ask the question as to vaccination statuses as part of the invite or something like that? Am I the only one that's thinking this?
Maybe not, but I don't know. I have no problem asking. I don't leave that up to what everyone thinks. I would imagine, I'm going to guess that our board is pretty vaccinated, but I don't know. I've never asked anybody.
I think
I don't want to assume.
Right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, okay.
That's a great point. I wasn't, I guess it's a very new idea, so I haven't really had spent much time on the details, but we will make sure that somehow we keep everybody safe and use that as a, some sort of ticket, I guess, to the event.
Okay. JM and Eden kind of went up at the same time.
I was
So,
just going to suggest that maybe there's a way for people to proactively self-report that if they want to attend, and
there you
that
go.
requesting that information is part of a requirement, unless that's what folks feel comfortable with. But I've seen where organizations offer people an opportunity just to sort of self-report that and be okay with that being known. And so you're really putting the opportunity with the person rather than with the organization.
That's a great idea, Jan. Well, I think that's
Thank you, Jan.
good starting place.
Yeah.
Just start there. And Eden.
Yeah, I was just going to reiterate what Brett said. It's an outdoor event. So anyway, for what it's worth.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Anyone else? Okay. We're going to move on to 4.1. Hopefully we can.
The Chair Perry, maybe just ask for public if there's anything. I mean, I
Oh.
don't see hands, but oh, I see one.
Okay.
One came up.
There we go.
Okay. Tom Berg, you should be able to speak now.
Well, first of all, congratulations. You guys have been doing a great job. A lot of effort, tremendous amount of effort, I might say. The question I have, it's great that you guys voted and approved this unanimously. I'm reading your announcement that says you're still expecting to adopt a final GSP in December. So what did you adopt tonight that you're going to change and do something different and adopt it in December? I'm a little confused. So if somebody could just clarify that, because Amanda's going to ask and everybody's going to want to know, is this what you're giving to the DWR in January, or are you coming back with one more version? So that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Georgina, why don't you answer that?
I'm not sure I can. I thought that this was the final version, so I'm
I
going to
thought
ask
so too.
Rhett to
So
follow
do
up.
we.
It's done.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the final version. It could be a wording issue.
Correct. There might have been an earlier version where we saved December as a backup meeting if we needed it. At this point, the December meeting is not needed, or it's not needed for this purpose. Yeah. So this is it. Now we're gonna work on uploading and yeah.
It'll be final when it's uploaded, maybe. That's the.
But nothing needed from the board. Nothing.
Nothing. No, nothing's going to be changed. It's
Yeah.
purely data entry at this point.
Yeah.
Is that, you got that? That makes sense, Tom?
Yes, it did. I was just reading the announcement and I
That's
didn't
okay.
have a better description, so I wanted to clarify that. I think you guys, from what I've heard, are probably number one for this round. I'm gonna go, I'll send Amanda this information and let her know, and you might be the first one across the finish line for this second round. So good job, you guys.
Do we get grant money for that special?
I'm sure that's all you have to write at the top is "we finish first," and they'll give you a bonus. Just put that on your next application.
Excellent. We'll do that. Thank you, Tom. Eden?
Yeah, I was just going to ask Tom if he's authorized to confer extra credit for being a month early.
No, I have no authority whatsoever, but thanks for asking.
Okay, JM.
Just a question about the communications plan for how to announce this milestone to the community. Correct? Do we anticipate press release, that sort of thing?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
We have prepared the press release, hoping that the board adopts the plan today, so that will go out tomorrow, hit the streets.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we're going to move on to 4.1. Agency organizational structure committee formation. Parrot, you want to give a short staff report?
Maybe just an introduction. It's a mouthful. I was not able to come up with a better name for this committee. So if anybody has suggestions, I'm certainly open to that. But essentially what it is now when the GSP is done, or at least major work from the board is done, we really need to be looking at what this agency wants to be in the next phase. how we're going to get the implementation work moving along, and any changes that need to be or are suggested to be made either to staffing side. We've been doing this collaborative staffing for quite a while, and I don't know that it's necessarily sustainable for the long haul for the next 50 years. I'm certainly not committing to do that in the next 50 years. So I think it's good to start talking about it. And we were thinking, we talked about it with the chair and vice chair. Staff talked to chair and vice chair, getting their input, that maybe instead of trying to get to some sort of draft proposal or recommendation from 11-member board, it would be more productive if a smaller subset of the board, aka committee, would kind of put their heads together and then came up with a proposal they can share with the board and kind of move quicker this way.
Yeah, and at least some ideas. And I don't, on our board in Scotts Valley, the chair gets to appoint members to the, to subcommittees. So I'd like to float a membership to this subcommittee, if it's okay, and get it approved, or I would think the board would have to give an okie dokie to that. I was thinking it should be the chair and vice
Chair Perry, maybe first to see a round of, is the idea of a committee.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
Sure.
And
something.
Chris, would you allow me to kind of explain a little bit more, since the rest
Absolutely.
of the board was not at this meeting that we had with staff, which
Sure.
is, there's kind of several levels of things. The first is, how are we going to administer the organization going on? Perrette hopes to retire someday. We have other activities that we need to do. So there's that sort of nuts and bolts of how we can do that. And then there's the larger question of, do we have the right membership of the JPA? And as we discussed earlier, and I think Bruce McPherson volunteered to sort of help with, was, who's paying for what? Maybe the current 60-30-10 is not exactly right. We maybe should have some others contributing. And then beginning the process of, how do we start thinking about what projects and how do we do this? And I think the important thing that I learned just in the last week was that in October, the California Department of Water Resources issued essentially an RFP for proposals that, for us in the moderate priority basins, would mean that we would be putting together a proposal for projects, capital projects, sometime next fall or winter, which sounds like a long time away, but actually is not. So we need to start getting our act together, thinking about what are the things we want to do, how we prioritize them. So we need to sort of think about what's the process that we'd like the whole board to do. And the amounts of money are considerable. I mean, the minimum you can ask for is 2 million, and it goes up to 8 million. So this is serious amounts of money, and we need to get organized to do it. So it's not that we want this group to be making all those decisions, but it's more kind of trying to figure out how to construct how we move forward. And I think the idea was to make it an ad hoc committee of only 5 members, so that we don't constitute a quorum of the board, which makes it a little bit easier for us to operate. And also just in terms of Brown Act and things like that, but also just to get everybody together. So that's a little bit of the background before Chris wants to go ahead and talk about membership.
Yes, that's very well put. That's a good, clear explanation. Jack.
Yes, I'm wondering if one of the roles of the committee will be about how we, as the entity we are, kind of works with the agencies that will actually be implementing specific projects. Because I recall it's sort of I'll call it a handoff, but basically certain entities that would be benefiting from each project. It's kind of up to them how they deal with the contract, share the cost, all those kind of things. So I'm wondering if this committee will help pave the way for how that process might work, how we get from the plan to the individual agencies working together to actually do a project.
I mean, my impression was it quite wasn't that granular. It was more big picture of what's the agency going to look like, how is it going to be operated,
Mhm.
what do we have in place to take advantage of grants when we get them. Pretty much everything Gail laid out was a very good specific description of what we were talking about. Some structural things with the agency membership,
Okay.
et cetera.
Okay,
So
so that would not be
really-
in charge of this committee, but clearly that would need to happen in some process, but okay.
Yes,
I
definitely.
think a lot of that, Jack, I mean, that sort of thing probably should be a discussion that the whole board takes part in.
That would
And
make sense.
so I think what we're just trying to do now is kind of make it a little bit more efficient and sort of come up with some initial ideas, and then the whole board would be involved in mostly, in the decision making itself.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Anyone else? Anything from a member of the public? Oh, there we go. It's Doug Angfer. You're public.
I didn't take a look at the bylaws. Maybe Terry could quickly let us know what the parameters are around an ad hoc committee in terms of duration and when the time period would start. And yeah, mindful that it wouldn't be a Brown Act committee. Just brief us on what the meeting parameters might be like.
Under our bylaws at section 5.1, it says the board may establish by action item one or more standing or ad hoc committees and appoint committee members to assist in carrying out the purposes and objectives of the agency. And then it basically says the committee has no independent authority without board approval. And then it says a majority of the members of the board of directors shall comprise a majority of each committee. And it says standing committees shall comply with the applicable provisions of the Brown Act, but this is an ad hoc committee. As far as timelines, the bylaws don't address a specific timeline. And I don't know if I've ever heard of one. Maybe some of you out there have heard of specific timeline.
I believe it's 6 months.
Yeah, can I just say that I would suggest that we set this up, that the committee would sunset on July 1st of 2022. So it's about a little over 6 months, with the idea that it would take us through the period where we're sort of talking about budget issues and other things that have to do with who pays what. But we don't want this to be a forever committee. It should go away once we get some of these things sorted out. So
And it might even be quick. It might even be quicker than that.
Yeah, it could be. But in other words, that would serve until at latest July 1st, 2022 would be my recommendation.
Okay. And I believe Eden had his hand up next.
Yeah, I was going to say, you haven't floated your recommendations for who would be included in this 5-member ad hoc committee, but if the committee is going to discuss or make recommendations for amendment to who is included or the structure of the JPA or who is responsible for paying for certain things, I would assume that it means that at least one member of each of the different diverse groups that make us up would be on this committee.
Yes, there would. It would be. It might not be one of the. It will be an entity that is not. But I envision an entity that is not a water district or a city, but does use wells extensively.
That can.
And we're not going to make any decisions about these things.
Yeah.
We are merely going to discuss them and bring a suite of ideas back to the board. Nothing's going to be decided. The main things we're talking about are just kind of things we wouldn't want to drag the whole board through. We might be looking at feasibility of how do we staff the Sigma, but no decisions will be made. It's just organizing ideas and then bringing it back to the main board. Jeff.
Yeah, hi, thank you. Yeah, I'd be curious to hear your suggestion for who is going to make up the board. I think that has a lot of effect on our input into this. But I also want to ask, is there really any need for these discussions to be private and out of public view? I mean, I think these are critical. Some of these initial discussions about who makes up the board, that's a pretty critical issue. The details about how we go for grant money, well, I can understand that that's too detailed and maybe that doesn't need to be in front of the public, but the overall structure of the entire organization, that's a pretty big deal to just put in a private session that may not include everyone. So I would like to know who you're talking about including, and I kind of think that the initial discussion, or at least the discussion of who's involved in this board, I think that should be more done in the public, at the public level.
And yeah, and it will be. This is whatever we discuss here is just spitballing, preliminary discussion. We might be just working out like, how could this go wrong? But the whole thing will be discussed publicly with the full board.
Right, but stuff that comes out of committee often has a lot of momentum and gets rubber stamped when it gets to this level. So
I don't think we're that kind of board.
No.
I don't feel that way.
I would like to hear your proposal for how
Yes.
how you're going to put it together.
Okay. Anyone else? So first, let's see if it's okie dokie to even have this agency, and we can talk about membership after. Is that the best way to do it, Perrette?
This committee, you meant?
Committee.
An ad hoc committee. Let's
yeah,
make it clear.
Ad hoc.
I think maybe I've heard several board members expressing interest to see the makeup. So it seems like otherwise I hear there's nobody who is opposed to that, but it might be helpful for them to see what were you proposing.
Well, obviously, I would do one person from each of the member agencies, and I think it'd be good to have the chair and vice chair, and that takes care of two agencies. I was thinking Bruce McPherson would be a good representative of the County of Santa Cruz. I think Doug would be a great contributor as a representative from City of Santa Cruz and their water interests. And I think for the well owners, I think that Mount Hermon would be a great representation because they use the most of any private well owner, and they might be most directly hit by any financial implications. The individual private well owners really aren't in the crosshairs of anything where this agency has been discussing, but certainly the larger private users or non-de minimis users are definitely always been on the table. So I think it's important that a big group like Mount Hermon be involved. And that would be 5, I believe, if I count correctly.
I think I would just add, Chris, that the idea would be that those would be 5 entities that are making up the committee, so that if, for example, Bruce McPherson couldn't show up, his alternate JM could come too.
Same with me. If I can't be
Or
there.
if later on somebody no longer is, for whatever reason, is no longer on the board of directors, that person would be replaced with somebody from that entity. So from that standpoint, I think we're making more the proposal is to have a representative of Scotts Valley, San Lorenzo, the county of Santa Cruz, the city of Santa Cruz, and Mount Hermon as the 5.
And I'm just suggesting members just because in our board,
I agree with your choices, but I just want to make it clear that it's not that we're picking them so much personally as that we're representing an entity.
No, but that is, yes, that's the entity was the primary, and then it's a teeny bit of both. But Jack.
Yeah, so Did I not hear you include City of Scotts Valley as one of those?
I did not.
Okay.
And then mainly because the Scotts Valley Water District is located in Scotts Valley, and, you know, our interests tend to align pretty closely, and City of Santa Cruz is such a big player in the water situation in the entire, you know, county area, that it's kind of hard not to, they're not really in it because they're a city, they're in it because they, you know, Loch Lomond, San Lorenzo River, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, well, I would like to see the City of Scotts Valley represented in some fashion. And really, if I look at it, and I'm not sure I think any changes are necessary, but there's something about the fact that the committee would be talking about the membership that's sort of, it's, as it is for good reason, we have 2 members from each of the water districts. And I guess from the, anyway, and so it just feels like there's a, how do I put it? And maybe that's the best to keep status quo, the membership, but maybe it isn't. I'm just saying not having everybody there initiating that momentum, as was alluded to, sort of closes the door a little bit to changing anything, if you can, you know what I mean? Or at least,
Well, yeah, it could be. I'm just, we're stuck at 5 members, because then we go above that and we're in trouble. So
what about
Once you
putting,
go above 5, Jack, you might as well make it the full board, because you're essentially, you are making it the full board.
I agree. So my thought is, I like the idea of the committee. The only thing I would like to maybe go to the whole board and not the committee would be the membership.
And it will, everything is going to come to the full board. It just might get discussed. It doesn't mean it's going to come with any more momentum than it would have right at this minute. It's just going to be just part of the discussion, but it's not.
Well, sometimes in the world at large, if
Yes.
you're not part of that initial discussion, your opportunity is limited later.
I don't think this board has lived that way, and I doubt, that's why we have 4 or 5 hour meetings. I don't think it, I really, my gut tells me we would never do that.
Okay.
We wouldn't come in
yeah,
with something and just impose it, you know, and say, well, come on, you weren't there.
No, I agree. It's a very collaborative. I just, in the world of redistricting and everything else, sometimes things have a way of just evolving, and it's helpful to be part of the discussion as also. Anyway, that's my opinion.
We're just trying to avoid doing it. Hey, if we want to start having, bi-monthly board meetings and knock this stuff out as a whole board, I don't recommend it, but we could vote to do that.
Yeah, again,
It'd have to be more than that, I think, actually, to get us on track for the grant proposal.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
yeah, I'm only talking about the membership portion of those things that are listed. So,
Okay. Boy, I lost track. I think maybe Jeff, it might be next.
I just put my hand up.
Okay, can't be.
I think Mark
There's gotta be
Smalley
Mark.
was,
Gotta
I
be
think
the
Mark
top.
was there, yeah.
The top down then. Mark.
I feel that the suggestions that Chair Perry has made at this point are spreading the input into this ad hoc committee across the spectrum of the agencies that have been participating up to this point, from what I've been aware of, and the users of water in the area. So it feels to me like this is appropriate at this point, given that we're limited to 5. And with that number, I think that you could come up with reasonable suggestions on how to approach these organizational matters, since we're at a transition point now. So this feels to me like it's the way to go.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Perrette, you are next in line.
I'm happy to be the last one after the directors have spoken.
Then I would put Eden.
I would just suggest that maybe the ad hoc committee be created to discuss things like administration, the collaborative staffing, but that a regular board committee or the regular board discuss the initial stages of spitballing about membership, leadership, funding, reallocation, et cetera.
Okay, JM?
I just wanted to add two things. One is just as a point of information for folks who weren't around during the formation of the agency, there was a lot of work that happened early on with a committee to set guiding principles and other sort of foundational pieces that then were later brought to the board for approval. So there was a lot of that sort of early sort of group think, if you will, that went into the larger sort of putting together of the organization. So we do have a history and a successful one at that. My question would be, I guess, of Terry, and that would be that if the city of Scotts Valley or other stakeholders wanted to provide input into the ad hoc process, could the county representative or the Scotts Valley Water District representative, whoever was most appropriate, sort of consult with representatives of the city or other organizations and bring that input to the table, or is that a Brown Act problem?
Brown Act violation.
That's a Brown Act problem. I did check if it were a standing committee, a member, for example, of the city could come and sit in and not talk. But the fact that it probably shouldn't be the same person who's on the board, because then you'd have a direct Brown Act violation. So as proposed as an ad hoc committee, I'm not aware. I think once we got one more, we would be in a serial meeting situation.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Jeff?
Yeah, basically, I want to agree with what was said recently, that I would rather pull the membership, leadership, administration, and funding out of the ad hoc committee, and at least, as you would say, refer to, spitball it in advance and just have some discussion of that with the larger board. And then, you know, the stuff where we're going for the funding and the details, then that can be in the ad hoc committee. But I'd like to, I think it's addressing too large of a body of issues for it to be not in public view and not addressed by the full board.
Well, that would be everything you listed is the whole reason for the subcommittee. So we would just table it and start doing meetings.
I heard you were trying to go for some funding for some.
No, we're not. We're just trying to figure out how to put administration together that would go for funding. So that's all about administration and everything. It's complicated.
Okay, so maybe the administration part to go into the committee, but we still talk about membership and, you know, leadership and funding. If those are pretty big issues to bury in a committee. So.
Okay, I would push back on the term bury. The only reason this is an ad hoc committee is to make it easy to meet with less work on staff, not hiding anything. It's never the intent, and no decisions are going to be made, and everybody's going to hear everything. I think we've come far enough that we should trust each other a little bit here. JM?
Yeah, thanks. So I'm just wanting to add, you know, as a point of clarification, would the ad hoc committee just be sort of outlining the questions that we want to answer and the challenges that we want to address, rather than coming up with the answers to those questions?
Excellently well put.
It's really more about just creating that sort of like, what do we want to know and what do we want to accomplish type of document that comes back to the board, right? For the
That's
answer.
exactly correct. That's so well said.
Okay, thank you.
Jack?
Yes, just I like what JM just said. So yeah, if it's formed in that fashion with some good work behind it, that's great.
Okay, now Pierrette?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that this committee most likely would rely on staff and work with staff quite a bit, because even the previous both ad hoc and standing committees, they were not just meeting with the directors. And staff does need some input from board. It doesn't have to be a full board. We have some ideas. We want to bounce them off, you know, at least as sample set of board. And it might be that what we get from this committee is more direction to go and collect more data, what they feel is relevant and pertinent in order to provide to the whole board. So there's going to be a lot more back and forth than us getting direction and feedback from the committee so we can bring more flushed ideas to the full board. So I think that should give, and those other board members, Terry, correct me if I'm wrong, they can always come to staff and ask, if there is anything that, I can talk to all of you. So that's not a Brown Act. So you can, if you have concerns or if you have questions, you can certainly talk to me, as I will be staffing the committee here. And maybe the membership, that's too big of a question, because we know if and when we get to that point, this is going to be very complicated and big decision. So I don't necessarily see that this committee will be deciding anything way too early on. They might come back to the board saying, we really need to take this on, or versus this is not something that should be considered now. So I think it's very, very, but from staff standpoint, and how the grant is related, what Gail was referring to, in order to apply for the grant, we need to have very specific activities. And this is not grant necessarily for projects. It's actually a grant that is available to pay for operating cost of this agency. And in order for that to be done, we need to have very specified activities and a cost. And we don't have any direction from anybody at this point how we're going to be operating going forward. So just some feedback, let's put some scope together and bring it back to the board. And the future board meetings, you will be hearing a lot from this committee and giving the committee feedback, and then committee can go and get more work done and bring it back to the board. So that's what I'm envisioning, what staff could use, what type of support the staff could use from the board.
Okay,
The committee.
Sierra?
Well, Brett kind of got to it right there at the end, but I just was going to add that the committee, as part of the direction that the board suggests, you could include updates at every board meeting from this committee. And obviously there will be times when there's going to be questions that the committee has for the whole board between now and the sunsetting of the committee.
Okay. Anyone else? Any comments from the public?
I see no hands at this point.
Okay. We have a recommendation to form an ad hoc committee and appoint committee members to the agency, for the agency. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
Okay. Have a roll call.
I am finding my piece of paper and I got sidetracked here. It was very, very good conversation. Thank you. So we are,
May I ask a
had
point of,
direct,
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Just a question, clarification. So are we agreeing to form the committee and appoint certain members, or just certain membership agencies who will then appoint their own member?
I think you're doing members, both.
Okay, so who are those members? If could we just repeat
It
that?
is the chair and vice chair.
Okay,
Bruce,
So
of the agency. Okay.
Bruce McPherson,
Uh-huh.
Mount Herman Association.
well, we let's call
Dale-
either names or
Dale Pollock,
not mix.
Dale
Yeah.
Pollock,
Yeah, okay.
and Doug Engfer.
Thank you.
And I think it's true for all of them. They all have alternates. And if those people that are specifically appointed to that committee cannot attend, their alternate is the first one to step in.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Eden, we have a second and a motion and a second, but we'll take a last comment.
I was just going to clarify, since Dale does not appear to be here, have you talked to him about this and he's willing?
Yes.
So We had a first. I got that. I'm sorry, I missed the second. Who made the second?
It was, first was Mark and the second was Gail.
Gail. Okay. And are we ready for
Roll
the roll
call.
call? Okay. Director Anker,
Aye.
Director Koenig,
Aye.
Director Cassidy,
No.
Director Koopman,
It's too broad for me, the way it's currently written, so my answer is no.
Director Dillis,
Yes.
Director Mayhood,
Aye.
Director Smalley,
Yes.
Director Brown,
Aye.
Director Stiles,
Aye.
and Chair Perry.
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 8 ayes and 2 nays. The motion passes.
Okay, thank you. So we have that done. Now I think the next thing is director reports.
I am going to move just a second. My screen just went crazy. Okay, we have we had staff reports and there was none. So director's reports is next. Yes.
Right. Anyone have a report?
We have Jack Dillis' hand up.
Okay.
Yeah, Chair, last 3 days, I attended hour-long webinars each day from the Public Policy Institute, California, I think they're called, about seizing the drought water priorities for a changing climate. And it was high level, but I enjoyed it. There were some good good discussions about, basically, of course, maximizing every drop of water we get, saving it, saving the water when we get lots of rain, those kind of things. But I thought some of the best comments were made by Rosemary Menard under the section on paying for water system resilience. And she ticked off just briefly some really important topics like Prop 218 kind of limits in areas where you might have something that affects just a few property owners. How do you spread that cost when it's going to impact a whole community? So maybe Prop 218 needs to be revisited. And let's see, you should be ready for state and federal funding, of course, have a shovel-ready project. Others opine, though, that, small or poor districts might have a hard time getting their projects ready. So that was an intriguing thought. She also talked about, of course, improving income rate, low income rate assistance. And finally, I like the idea of accessing a line of credit to be ready, because grants often pay you in arrears. And if you have an expensive project, you may need some cash up front to pay for that. So I thought those were all good comments. That's my report.
Thank you, Jack. Okay, great. All right, anyone else? Okay, future items. Sigma future structure work plan, cash receipts and disbursement policy, that's my favorite, and records retention policy is coming in the future. Event calendar, the Aqua Fall Conference is November 30th through December 2nd. I don't know if it's too late for anyone, but Sigma is a member of this. It can be done virtually. And
virtual registration is still open. They did
Still open.
close the in-person one.
Okay, so I recommend it, and I believe we would pay for it, right, Perrette?
Yeah, we have funding in our budget, in this agency's budget. So if any of you are interested, please email me or call me.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think once you register, you don't have to view it in real time. You can go back and look at the different seminars and et cetera at your convenience. So
that is one of the benefits of the hybrid conferences, that they make most of the sessions available via recording too. Yes.
Okay. All right. And so number 9. I couldn't get unanimous vote on the one thing, but I think I might get it on this.
Chris, can I just ask whether we will indeed need the meeting on December 8th, or whether we should use that as the first meeting of the ad hoc committee, since people kind of already have that time slot blocked out.
I don't know. I don't.
I mean, I
Staff
guess
has no
the
business at
question
this
is,
point.
do we have any business, pressing business, or for that matter, maybe Georgina, is there anything that we'll need to know while you're chugging away, putting all those bits and pieces in to the website for the state?
No, I don't think so. I will send out an email to tell you when it's all done. Oh, I'll tell Perrette and she probably will tell you, but I don't need anything from the board myself.
And staff has really no anything, non-urgent or non-urgent. There's
The
a
only
few
thing-
items. There are a few items that are coming up early next year at the beginning of 2022 calendar year, but we can certainly cancel this and use the time. Either this is the same time or sometime early December, get the committee first meeting scheduled.
Okay, I would say that if we were going to use that date, I don't want to necessarily make staff go past their, could be something we could do during the day more.
I will send out an email to get everybody's availability.
Okay. All right.
So very likely I will do another round, but I will send out an notification to everybody, but sounds like we might be canceling December meeting, and we do not have a schedule yet set up for next year. That is dependent a little bit on how quickly this committee is moving and when they would have something to bring back. So maybe January, we're sticking with the same third Thursday of each month, but I don't envision that we will be needing it every month, the board meeting. So you will hear from me
Okay,
on that.
awesome. All right, can I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, who made that motion?
J.M. Brown.
Okay,
JM.
JM.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Got it.
Do I need a roll call vote, or is everyone ready to be
No,
done?
maybe just
At
we'll
before
do
6 o'clock, 5:58.
5:57. I think we could do, if there's no objections.
No objections to be done before 6?
Nobody has a hand up.
Okay, no objections. All right, well, I return to our best part of the meeting and say congratulations for getting the important thing done. And let's move forward.
I think that's a record short meeting, isn't it?
It might be. I think that's a winner.
And
Thank
happy
you, everybody.
holidays to you all.
Happy holidays.
Yes, happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Bye.
All right,
Bye.
take care.
But if these are